My name is Jim Pimentel. I live in Somerset, represent Local 3 Bricklayers and Allied Craftsmen, several dozen in the city, along with their families. I was born and raised in the city. Currently, my address is not in the city, but my heart still is. And I'll always love this city. And my mother, still many of my family members live here. Even though, I'm going to talk on the residency issue for a minute. Even though we all knew when we improved the ordinance that there were going to be some challenges to the residency piece, we figured it was a worthy challenge to defend. Attorney Torres had said as much back in April that there may be some challenges. If it's against the law, maybe the law is the problem and not the intent of the ordinance, okay? Recently, they just passed a law in Arizona, very controversial law, we're all aware of it, all right? Why did they do it? They did it because they're trying to protect their way of life. They feel like their state is being invaded, all right? Those of us in the building trades, we feel a similar sentiment right now. We feel like we're being overrun by unscrupulous contractors because they're taking advantage of certain groups of people. It's depressing wages and benefits, lowering standards of work. This isn't the reason, though. This is the reason why we have these types of ordinances implemented at the local level, because the state doesn't always do its due diligence in enforcement. It gives the local awarding authority some leverage over bad contractors, so that when a project is coming down the pike, we can do something before the contracts are signed, before the shovels are in the ground, to weed out the bad apples. That's what this is all about. It's not intended to hurt a certain class of contractors. It's about helping Fall River families get on the projects, making sure legitimate contractors bid and win the work. Not just union, not just non-union, legitimate contractors. You know, the residency piece, we're not talking about lifetime jobs here either, like some of the jobs the city gives out. We're talking about temporary jobs that last a few weeks or a few months, and we're talking about ensuring that a percentage of the workers on the project are Fall River residents. Not all of them, a percentage. I want to know why it is that in other cities and towns across the state, like let's take New Bedford for example, Mayor Lang strongly enforces the residency requirement in that city, even on private projects like the Market Basket going up in the North End, or the Regency Tower in downtown New Bedford. Over 80% of the workers on that project are New Bedford residents. And it's a private project, not even prevailing wage. That means 80% of the paychecks are going back into that local economy, being reinvested. That's what this is about. It's a fight worth fighting. Let's not forget, too, you all voted for this a few months ago because the city was on the right track with this. If it needs some tinkering, let's tinker with it. Let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater, all right? There's some good things in the ordinance. Let's compromise. We've got plenty of time. There's no big hurry. There's no pile of legal bills piling up, all right? The plaintiffs have to make a motion for summary judgment October 1st. Attorney Torres said here last week that if a consent agreement can be reached between the two parties, there is no declaratory judgment for the plaintiffs. It's not costing the city any money right now. You know, I talked about Mayor Lang, right? What he does for the city of New Bedford. But when outside interests come into Fall River, like UCANE or the ABC or the Merit Shop Alliance, right? And they file a suit, what happens over here? Everybody starts tripping over each other to repeal the ordinance and forgets about Fall River's working families. That's what this is all about. Even if there was a suit, all right? When it's all said and done and it costs the city a few bucks, the money that's made from those workers, those residents on those projects for that length of time may even negate the cost of the suit because they're going to reinvest that money back in the local economy. They're going to pay their mortgages. They're going to support local businesses. They're going to expand the tax base. In the end, they might cancel each other out. And in the meantime, you put local people to work. Look, it's not our fault the city's being sued. It's not your fault, okay? They're the ones doing the suing. If they cared so much about the city like you do and like we do, all right, why don't they suspend the suit and let's work on a compromise together? They won't do that. You know why? Because they are philosophically opposed to any kind of regulatory structures like REOs, like standards about wages and benefits and safety and anything. That's what they stand for. They don't stand for workers' rights. They don't stand for workers at all. They represent the interests of big business most of the time. all right? And I'm not just speaking as a union representative. I've been on both sides of the fence. I started out my first 8 years in the trade, I worked non-union. Some of the people that were in this audience that I noticed last week after I got up that were leaving are people that I worked with and for years ago. And they nickeled and dimed me on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, all right? We were forced to work overtime, we didn't get paid for it. If we spoke up, they'd say, oh yeah? They'd take you right off the prevailing wage job and put you on a private job where you're making half the money and no benefits, okay? That's why the workers are not gonna blow the whistle. It's up to you, the elected leaders, to set standards, to set benchmarks, to create a system where you can weed out those bad apples ahead of time. I'm telling you, like Brian said, these things are gonna happen on the Morton Middle School, all right? We need to do something about it. We need to do something about it so that, like when the Slade School was built a couple of years ago, for example, 10% of the man hours worked, Fall River residents. A lousy 10%, okay? That was on the masonry, all right? I just hope you stand up for the courage of your convictions. You all voted for this unanimously. There's no big hurry. You don't have to repeal this tonight, all right? We can think about it. We can go back. We can work on it together. That's if they want to work out on it together. But like I said, I don't think they do. I just think they want to see it disappear. I think they want to see us disappear. Thank you.
Mr. President, I have one quick question.
Yep.
You said back in April, Attorney Torres said there may be challenges to this. Was that the ordinance meeting that was held?
He said it right in the ordinance committee meeting, Mr. President,
All right.
that he said that there were challenges. There could be challenges, but he thought that the city of Fall River could definitely overcome them based on our 18% unemployment rate.
All right, thank you.